From engaging television writer to widely acclaimed director, Pacific Grove, California native Gina Prince-Bythewood is a principled storyteller. More than a filmmaker, Gina is also a wife, mother, friend, and activist. Gina Prince-Bythewood on this episode of Leading Women.
Gina Prince-Bythewood is a great storyteller.
Gigantic sense of integrity, nurturing.
She is a woman to be reckoned with, Gina, and I love her.
I always wrote short stories. I always had an active imagination. I used to watch soap operas a lot in high school and read finally how much soap opera writers make, and I was like, oh my God. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. But once I got into UCLA, started working on student films there.
She was always a good writer. She was very creative.
I remember when it came time to apply for film school, I didn't give myself any backup, any other major, and I didn't get in. I've only lost it maybe 3 times in my entire life, and that was one of them.
She was in tears, and my response was, do something about it.
At the time, I was actually interning on Ghost Dad, Bill Cosby's movie. He would just talk to me about the business, and like having someone like that as your first mentor, I mean, it was tremendous. And so when I got the rejection, talked to him about it and told him I wanted to write a letter, and he said I could put his name at the bottom. And, just really wrote an impassioned letter about why they made a mistake, and got a call a couple days later saying that I was in.
She seemed to be very happy and very relaxed to be in the city of Los Angeles, or in that area, in that environment.
Once I graduated, I was kind of back at square one again, and what am I going to do? And Bill Cosby hooked me up with Yvette Bowser, who was a producer at A Different World, which was my favorite show ever. They were looking for a writer's apprentice, and I walk in and there's like a room full of people. I was 22 years old and just like shrunk into myself, and it was just an awful, awful interview. So I knew I blew it, and I didn't get the job, which was crushing. But I had read somewhere about somebody who didn't get a job and had called over and over until they finally got it. And so I said, well, let me go for it. And finally, after about a month and a half, the guy they hired instead of me started messing up. And they remembered me, and obviously because I was calling all the time, and they called and said, come on.
Early on, she had a voice. And I think that was the thing that, really made her stand out.
You're hanging with people that you used to watch on TV, like Dwayne and Jasmine, and it was just a cool, cool time. And to be in that kind of nurturing environment, and to every day go to work and see women that look like me doing it, running it, just gives you that confidence that you can do it yourself.
She was a great comedy writer on A Different World, and she also worked on South Central.
South Central was created by Ralph Farquhar and Michael Whitehorn, a family drama with jokes. You really couldn't call it a sitcom, but we really tackled some really great issues. I moved on to drama after South Central. I ultimately did want to move to drama. I started with Sweet Justice, which was Cicely Tyson and Melissa Gilbert. Then moved to a show called Courthouse. So had a couple really great experiences in drama, and then came Felicity. It just spoke to me. It didn't matter that the characters were white. Got the gig on that. Got to work with J.J. Abrams, who's a phenomenal writer, obviously, and a great boss too. And it was just, it was a lot of fun. So I was writing for TV for 5 years. I finally said I've got to quit, because I kept saying I'm going to write a screenplay to direct, because ultimately that's what I wanted to do, was direct. And I realized very quickly no one was going to hand me something to direct, because I'd never done it before. And so I said, let me take 1 year off. TV, pays you very well, so you can do that. And so I said, I'll take a year off and write Love and Basketball.
It was a very scary time for Gina. She was really had a foot in the door as a TV writer. It's hard to have your foot in the door and just pull back and say, this is great, but I have a bigger vision.
After a while, it became a pretty running joke, like, so you're still taking a little time off to write your screenplay, because a year later, she was still writing the screenplay.
That year turned into a year and a half, but finished it, was very happy with it, went out with it right when Soul Food hit. So I was like, well, this is a no-brainer, and every single studio turned it down.
A movie about a black female basketball player was not something anybody thought would ever, see the light of day.
Just by chance, 2 people at Sundance had heard about the script and called me in for a meeting, the Sundance Writers Program, and they wanted to develop the script. I started getting kind of the same note over and over, and dug back into the script and figured out the problem, which was the 3rd act. That's when Spike Lee's company saw it. They saw a reading of it and really wanted to do it. Casting was the toughest. As Sanaa loves to say, but casting was really tough to find Monica, because I had to get someone that could act and someone who could play ball.
She wanted a basketball player because she had been a basketball player, and she wanted the most authentic looking basketball player.
I met with everybody, and first they auditioned, then they had to get on the court, and that's what shut down everybody.
I went through a grueling 4-month audition process. I hated her. I now love her. She's one of my closest, dearest friends.
Finally, I realized that, what is this film? It's not a basketball movie, it's a love story set in the world of basketball. And, you can fake a jump shot, but you can't fake a close-up. And I got to go with the actor and went with Sanaa.
And I remember watching her and Sanaa together and working, and, it was Sanaa's first big leading role.
We had a very intense filmmaking process.
I was pretty relentless, and I'll never apologize for it because I think she gave an amazing performance.
I was sitting in Jason's ride with him, and he was kissing on me and feeling on me, and it was really bugging me because I couldn't remember how many offensive boards I had in the championship.
I was very, very accessible, and yet a different view, something that we just hadn't seen really before that, young black love in that way.
I was actually shooting Disappearing Acts when it came out, and the coolest thing was my husband on opening night, because I was in New York. He went to all these different theaters with a video camera and videotaped the audiences.
Then we went on to do Disappearing Acts. She directed Disappearing Acts.
It was a project I was dying for, and now they're offering it to me, And I saw it as an opportunity to work with Sanaa again.
By that time, we had a shorthand. We had that kind of, relationship where she could just come to me and say one thing, and I knew exactly what she was talking about.
To me, of all of Terry McMillan's books that have been turned into movies, that's the best one.
My husband and I both took a year off, and then started writing again, and wrote 2 things that unfortunately didn't go, and that's when Bees came.
I think Secret Life of Bees is just, it's another Universal film. It's beautifully shot. She got great performances out of those women.
It was exciting to think that, we could, in one film, get like all Oscar-nominated actors or Oscar winners. Like, how often does that happen for black women? So that was really kind of my mandate early on, this opportunity to get the best of the best into one film.
I think from Love and Basketball to Disappearing Acts to The Secret Life of Bees, I really feel like I've seen this maturation process of an artist.
I was born in Chicago. I adopted there and lived there about a year, so I can't really claim it. But really grew up in Pacific Grove, California.
We had actually thought about adopting a child before we had our natural children. So then when we did have 2 girls, we kind of thought about, well, now maybe this next one we should adopt.
For us, it was Gina was such a gift to us.
Growing up, it was tough initially because I didn't look like anybody in my family. My sister is blonde-haired, blue-eyed. The other one's brown-haired, blue-eyed, and it's kind of like, where did I come from?
We always said that we were so happy to have her as our child, that she was just as much our child as her sisters were.
It was tough. It was all white area, and the school was all white, and You know, desks would have KKK scrawled on them and people drop pictures.
Individual instances did occur where I had to, first time she got called by some kid. It's very hard.
Now, in retrospect, I think it's really influenced, you know, who I've become today and the choices I've made and the kind of stories I like to tell. And, you know, obviously about characters always searching for who they are.
Gina has amazing parents. You know, I know them well, they visit. And she had what any child needs most, which is love.
My parents, I mean, there were 4 kids, 2 of us were adopted, and then at one time we had 3 additional foster kids. So, you know, just really giving parents, really supportive. They went to almost every one of my games.
She loves basketball. It was a sport that called to her, I guess, and she was very good at it.
Sports and basketball, like that gave me applause and gave me a sense of self. And I mean, it was hugely important to my life.
It doesn't surprise me at all that the first movie that she wanted to write and then direct was something that about her love of basketball and a character who, much like her, was trying to find where she fit in.
How proud am I? Don't you see I'm beaming?
We first sighted each other. I was actually at this taping of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
You know, we always argue about, you know, who was checking who out first.
The furthest thing from my mind was that she was going to be, you know, somebody I'd be dating. And just as fate would have it, actually like a week or so later, we ended up working with each other on a different world. I got hired in a different world.
I don't know, we just clicked and just started helping each other and really bonded, became best friends.
We were just hanging out with each other all the time. And so we go to the movies one day, no big deal. And I park my car and Gina's not getting out. And she says, I want to ask you something. And she says, do you remember this line in When Harry Met Sally where they say that it's impossible for a guy and a girl to be platonic? And I said, yeah. And she just kind of looks at me. She says, well, you know, I know you have these feelings, Reg. And I said, really? And, you know, I never even thought of it that way. But after she put it out there, it was just a done deal. And so it was like a year went by of us dating, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and, you know, the little hints kept coming up.
He asked for her hand in marriage, which I thought was the most touching thing.
I ended up renting out the entire botanical gardens and go there, and there's like a guy, you know, playing the violin. We walk over to the lake, sit her down, do the whole one knee thing, pop open the ring, and she just starts crying.
The day my husband proposed to me, you know, it was pretty phenomenal.
They understand each other very well. I think Gina was very lucky to have met a man like Reggie. I totally admire him.
You know, as it turned out, I married my best friend. And, you know, fortunately, you know, after 11 years, she's still my best friend. I think she's just a great wife, a great friend, and you know, as a result, a great mother. We really spent a lot of time trying to get the kids to, you know, understand their place in the world. It was my idea to name our oldest Cassius, and Gina wanted to name our youngest Toussaint after Toussaint Louverture.
My husband's hero is Muhammad Ali. And so with Cassius, we pretty much agreed on that.
I spoke in the Muhammad Ali Center when I was 4.5 years old.
Muhammad Ali just fell for him because Cassius has that same infectious personality. Toussaint just makes me laugh nonstop. I was very lucky to have boys because, you know, I'm out on the court playing with them or down on the floor wrestling with them. And I mean, I just dig that. I love the boy energy. I love being the only woman in the house.
God just did this perfectly to give Gina 2 boys instead of 2 girls. I can't imagine what the girl's hair would have looked like if Gina had to comb it every day.
She has a very good, special relationship with her children.
And I think, like, you know, just being parents has just been, you know, greater than any movie, any amazing review, any award, you know. I think at the end of the day, it's like that, you know, those kids got us in the heart.
She's the best mom in the world, and she can really play basketball. And she's fast.
Coming out of film school, you're like, don't change one word of my script. But as as you get older and you learn and you listen to people that are better than you, you gotta let everybody be part of the process.
She knows the craft of filmmaking, knows the craft of storytelling, and she cares very much about, telling the right story.
I choose a project based on what I'm passionate about, and I think that it has to start there.
This is a woman who takes a long time in between movies to make sure that what she's written and how she's adapted the story or written the original screenplay, that it's perfect.
For the most part, do focus on Black characters, and that's just a tougher fight, and people aren't throwing open their doors for those kind of projects. Like Black film, that's what I'm passionate about, and reaching Black audiences, but having my films be able to cross over and be identifiable to everybody. Really trying to get us to the point where white audiences will stop looking at the color of the characters and just be able to identify with the story.
I think Gina has a cause bigger than herself. I think one of the things that's really inspiring about Gina is that she really looks to hold the mirror up to nature, but it's not really just reflecting on the way life is, but the way life should be.
One of the things I'm involved in is a organization called Scenarios, and what they do is they have a nationwide contest about a different topic, and the year I did it, it was on HIV and AIDS for teenagers, and so teenagers wrote short stories about the subject, and this woman, Kiana Ray, won the nationwide contest, and they paired Reggie and I with her to make her short story into a short film.
Baby, I'm serious. I swear to God on my mama, things gonna be different. I take that construction job, but it's just hard. I want to set a good example for our son.
Aired on BET and won an Emmy, and that was a phenomenal thing because the whole crew worked for free. I worked for free. We hired kids from the high school. These kids had never acted before, and these are kids coming out of pretty tough environment, and to show them a world they had no clue about. It just builds you up.
Actually, most recently, her charity work involved building a playground for the Boys and Girls Club of San Fernando Valley. Actually, it was a Kaboom project. It's a project. Kaboom builds playgrounds all throughout the U.S. And Gina actually was in the mud, putting in plants, doing murals, and putting the playground together.
I get involved with things that sound interesting to me, that I feel that I can have an impact and that I can see have a direct impact. I would say the main advice I would give somebody who wants to be in this industry or do what I do is to do it. If you want to be a writer, write. The thing that drives me crazy more than anything, and Mara will say the same thing, Felicia, Reggie, it's like when people come up and say, I want to write and I have this great idea. Well, anybody can have a great idea, but what is the execution?
Do I think she's a role model? By all means, yes. For women in general, for Black women.
She's going to be like the Scorseses and the Coppola and the Spike Lees of the world. Gina Prince-Bythewood. You just wait and see.
In terms of her achievements, great filmmaker, great mother, great wife, great friend.
Getting into film school after being rejected, the fact that I appealed it and got in, I think has really set the tone for my career, because getting past that enormous no early on, fueled then getting on a different world after getting a no, and then loving basketball, everyone turning it down. You get 1,000 no's in this industry.
I think she's going to get opportunities to do bigger and bigger movies with, A-list Hollywood stars because she can.
There's so much for her to come. She's just, going to continue writing and going to continue creating, movies that impact, cinema.
I think Gina's legacy is going to be somebody that just told stories that nobody else was going to tell.
There's greatness in her future. I think she's going to write many, many more wonderful movies and direct them.
I love the fact that, I get to do the thing I wanted to do. I love directing and really love directing stuff I've written. And that I have the opportunity to do that over and over. To do what you love, I wish that for everybody, to be able to love what you do.
My mom is always telling me to be passionate, and so is my dad.
So what do you think she means by that?
She means have passion in what you do.